Welcome back to the channel. My name is Wayne and this is the It'll Do Homestead. I'd like to thank y'all for taking the time out of your schedule to watch this video today. We got to make a little trip before we can get started on today's project. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do, and pound that like button. We'll catch you here in a minute. I drive past this place from time to time, but I always wonder what goes on in a place called Pepper Source. Well, we're here. Let's see what we got. Well, this wasn't in the plans for today. Slight tire malfunction that I'm going to have to fix before I head the rest of the way home. Just a few more lug nuts and we'll be on our way. Well, went and picked up some bunny berries today, rabbit manure. Let's get this stuff unloaded and get to work. I've got a couple tomato plants and cucumbers that I've been hanging on to, and I really need to get them planted today. Plan is to plant them in some 5-gallon buckets. Today I'm going to be making my version of a self-wicking bucket or lazy man's garden bucket. Call it what you want, but the less work I got to do to maintain it, I think I like it. I've never done this. You say it's not my idea. There's a lot of information on the internet about this, so I'm going to give it a try. The first thing I want to do is take these plastic water bottles and drill a couple of holes in them. I'm not sure, it's about a 1/4 inch or 5/16 drill bit. As you can see, this is not working too good. This bottle is way too soft. What I ended up doing was putting a little heat on it. Yeah. So I come up with a carriage bolt that I sharpened the end of it up just a little bit. So I want to heat that bolt up till it gets nice and warm. Then we're going to poke a couple holes in it. First one we're going to put just down at the very bottom. And then another one up on the side of the bottle. Alright. So I need to do that to several more bottles. And then we'll carry on. I realized you probably couldn't see what I was doing with the carriage bolt and as far as making the holes. So here's the actual carriage bolt that I sharpened on the end to make the hole. Got it in some vice grips just in case it gets a little warm. And here's the holes that I punched into the plastic bottle. Got one up at the top. And there's the other one down at the bottom. That hot carriage bolt melting through there works really good on these soft plastic bottles. I suppose if you had a harder bottle, you could actually use a drill. But for me, this is the best option. The next thing I want to do is to drill an overflow hole in the side of this bucket, and I'll try to explain the way I understand this. Right here is where I'm going to drill my hole, about 4 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom. I'm going to ensure that the caps are tight on these water bottles that I pre-drilled the holes in. See the one at the top and one at the bottom. Then I'm going to start lining the bucket with these. Sometimes you just don't have enough hands. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That looks pretty good. That leaves a little bit of space over here on either side of the bottle. I've taken a Sharpie and drew arrows to the 3 holes that I've created. For the sake of argument, we're going to pretend that we already have our soil amendment, and our plants in there. And then we're going to begin filling this bucket from the top. As water enters into this first hole, it's going to fill the water bottle up until it reaches the top hole where it'll overflow. This will create an airspace up here on the top. Water will never go past this point because this hole is going to create an overflow for the excess water to come out. So down the bottom we'll have water, and up at the top we'll have an airspace. As the plant uses the water level is going to lower, and this vent hole will allow the water to escape the bottle without crushing the bottle. I'm going to make a fill tube for this bucket out of, looks like I got some 1-inch PVC pipe here. I want to measure how deep that bucket is. I want my fill tube to come up about here, which is 20 inches. Don't know how well you can see that. Measure this off 20 inches real quick. We'll cut us a piece of this off. I also want to cut the bottom of this at an angle, maybe a 45. That way when it sits in the bucket it's not flush against the bottom, which would keep the water from entering in. Alright, so you see what I got here? When this sits at the bottom of the bucket, it'll still allow water to come in. Something like this wouldn't work. So it'll sit like this. Not sure how you can see. Now everyone knows that no DIY project is ever complete unless you're using baling wire or duct tape. In this case, I'm going with the latter, duct tape. I'm going to use this to hold this fill pipe to the side so I don't accidentally pull it out or anything later in the future. Alright, here's a view from the top to see how this thing's turning out. I went ahead and put 2 more of these buckets together in the same fashion as the first one. I want to point out that I put the overflow hole across from the fill tube. My idea of thinking is that that'll give most of these bottles a better chance of filling up with water before the excess water comes out of the hole over here. I left my wheelbarrow down at the chicken coop, so let me run down there and get that real quick. I thought I had a big mole problem out here in the yard, but turns out it's just chickens. I've gathered up an 8-quart bag of peat moss and a 25-quart bag of potting mix. I'm going to add both of these to the wheelbarrow here and kind of mix them in together. Looks like it's starting to rain just a little bit. You don't want to put straight topsoil into your wicking buckets. That'll be way too heavy. The water won't be able to flow through it. Need something light and airy like this right here. Like usual, I don't have enough hands, but I'm just do the best I can do. I want to fill each of these buckets up to about the top of the water bottle with this mixture I got here. I want to poke this down between each of them water bottles. I'll add just a little more. So you can just barely see the tops of them bottles. Over here, I just happen to have some bunny berries that we went and picked up earlier. What I want to do is put about maybe 2 inches of these down on top. This is a good source of fertilizer. It doesn't have to be composted. You can use it just as fresh as you can find it. It won't burn anything. Okay, enough of that. Somebody once told me rabbit manure is the best thing since sliced bread. So there's only one way to know for sure. I'm not so sure I agree with him. Maybe it's just an acquired taste. Well, now that we have that issue resolved, let's go ahead and fill this bucket the rest of the way up with this potting mix. Let's pack that down. Go ahead and add a little bit more to it. Okay then, let's grab one of them tomato plants I got and put down in here. This little feller's seen better days, but I believe he still has a chance. I'm gonna cut some of these lower leaves off and bury that thing a little bit farther in the dirt. Make for a stronger root system. This is a red beefsteak. Supposed to be a indeterminate variety.
Maybe it'll like the rabbit manure just a little better than I did. What do you think? So I'm going to get this moved to its permanent location, then fill it up with water via this feed tube until I have water coming out the other hole over here. That way we know it's full. Fill it up now, it's just going to be heavier to move. We'll go ahead and do the same thing to these other two buckets. I have one more tomato for one of them, and I got some cucumbers for the third one. So I'm going to move these down to the this outbuilding over here and get them watered in. I think I will put some water in just on the top of the bucket, and then I'll go ahead and fill up the fill tubes with water. So right here looks like a good place for these guys. Grab that last one. Okay. I'm going to give each one of them a complete pitcher full of water from the top. Then we'll go back and continue filling them through the fill tube. Try to get some to soak up in the water bottles inside there until it overflows out the drain hole in the back. I'm certain that I don't have enough patience to fill these as slow as I need to. You want to give the plastic bottles buried down below the soil a chance to fill up with water. As the water level raises in the bottle, air will be pushed out of that hole in the very top. As water is consumed, the air in that hole in the top will allow the water to flow out without creating a vacuum and crushing the bottle. Hum-dee hum-dum-dum, hum-dee-dum-dee-dum-dee. Any day now, any day now. Can this go any slower? I think we've struck water. Okay, so in theory, the water bottle should be full and the excess water is coming out the back. We'll do this to the other two and go from there. Regardless of what name you call these, whether it's self-wicking bucket or lazy man's vegetable garden, I like it. There should be less watering involved. The reservoir of plastic bottles below the surface should hold a lot of water, so I shouldn't have to come out here as often, and that's a good thing. I'm going to give these guys a chance to grow. If I didn't kill them, I'm going to hang a piece of that concrete mesh behind them, give them a trellis to grow up, and support the weight of the fruit. These cucumbers as well as the tomatoes are indeterminate varieties, so they need something for support. Thanks again for joining me today on this video at the It'll Do Homestead. And I'll see you back here, same time, next week.